Hello Year 12. I think that this is probably the most valuable video on my entire YouTube page. In 3 steps, I'm going to show you how you can get a Band 6 in any maths course if you follow these 3 steps. So, let's jump straight in. First step, it's your 1s, 2s and 3s. What I mean by this is take a look at the documents here. I've created these documents and they basically show a contents page of every single topic that you study in your course. This is an example of extension 1. So all your topics and then everything you learn in those topics. So as a teacher, each one of those I call them subheadings, or the smaller headings, are basically a lesson or maybe a couple of lessons on that subheading. But it's a really great summary of every single thing you need to know in every single topic. And don't worry, I have these documents for advanced as well. I have them for extension 2 and I have them for standard. So what I want you to do is label 1s, 2s and 3s on every subheading. We'll start with 3s. What are 3s? 3s are, you've got it down packed, okay? So you don't need to go back over it. It's one of your strongest areas. You've got 1s. I'll skip down to 1s. 1s is, it's your weakest area. Not your weakest, I guess, but the weaker areas where you definitely need to go back over. So it's something you need to look back over 100% before your HSC, because from memory you weren't very strong at it, or you might have been strong at it but you just forget most of it. And 2 is somewhere in between that. Okay, so it's somewhere in the middle where you probably should look back over it, but it wasn't terrible. You can pretty much remember most things, but yeah, looking back over it's probably a good idea. So what I want you to do is go through every single one of these subheadings and put a 1, 2 or 3 next to it. All the way, every single topic, okay? So every single line, 1, 2 or 3. And be harsh, okay? Be as harsh as possible. Basically, if you are still a few months out of HSC, you probably have a lot of 1s and 2s. The idea then is to focus on the 1s. Go back to all of your 1s, okay? And perfect them and build them up to 2s and build those 2s up to 3s, okay? So that the few days before your HSC, you look back at this and you've got everything crossed out and everything has, hopefully, a 3 next to it. I will put the link below in the comments for all of those resources. All right, step 2. Step 2 are summaries. Now, I'm a believer that if I was really going to categorize things down, I don't like putting things into strict categories, but if I was going to put it into 2 categories, I would say there's 2 types of learners in maths. We have the visual learners who like the structure. They like steps. They usually like organization. And they learn from making these visual summaries. But the second type of learner, so that's learner number 1, and I'll admit I'm definitely a learner number 1. Learner number 2 are the more, I'd like to say, probably more abstract thinkers, where they just get better and better when they just do a million questions on different types of topics. These people usually are, and again, I don't like the categorizations very much, but they're usually messier. I think that's how you spell messier. Lucky I'm a maths teacher, not an English teacher. The summaries don't work as well for them. They like to understand, form a deeper understanding a lot of the time, and they just do more and more questions, the better they get. So the summaries often aren't as helpful for them. But again, don't like the categorizations, but overall, that's where we would sit. So, in saying that, step 2 is still useful for you, whether you're a visual learner or one of the practices or somewhere in between. Think of it like a scale rather than categories. Where do you fit on the scale between those two? If you're a visual learner, go back to all of these and make sure that you have a summary on every single one of those topics. And you have an easy and a hard example of every single one of those subheadings. You have all the formulas and all the steps for everything. That's what you need to do if you are one of these guys, the visuals. If you're a practicer, I still want you to make the summaries. But what I would tend to do is under each subheading, don't worry about, writing the steps out as much or notes to yourself. Just put the important formulas, okay? Maybe 1 or 2 steps briefly, but just have the heading, a formula or a sentence on what to be careful of, perhaps. So, depending on who you are, where you sit on that scale, find a spot where you're comfortable at with all your summaries. But make sure you've got something written on a summarized piece of paper for each one of those subheadings. This will also be a good tool for you to get those 1s up to 2s and 2s up to 3s by making these summaries. Because what I find is when I'm making a summary, I like to go back to the exercise, do a bunch of questions, and look at what questions are very common. Look at past paper questions, look at what comes up a lot, and put them on my summaries. So in your construction of making these summaries, it's already bumping up some of those 1s up to 2s or 2s up to 3s. And the last step, step 3, you probably know what it's going to be, and it is the most important step you could ever do for your HSC in maths. Past papers. I'm not kidding. Do as many of these as you can. If you are studying 2 units of maths, I'd at least be doing 1 paper every week, 10 weeks out of your HSC. If you are doing more than 2 units of maths, you need to be doing more than 1 paper every week. If you said to me, is there a secret? Is there a nice, quick way I could guarantee a good mark in maths? I would say, yep, there is. There is a secret. The secret is all you have to do is pass papers. Now, when you're doing those past papers, there's a few things I like you to make sure you're doing. I like to think of there being 4 phases, okay? So phase 1, when you start your past papers, start at open book, okay? Full open book. Use every single resource you have, textbook, anything. Then, after you do 1 or 2 past papers, or a couple more than that, then go to open summary, okay? Only use your summaries. This will really show you how great or how crap your summaries are. And then after that, hopefully that'll help you perfect your summaries as well. Go to closed book, but don't have a time limit. Try and do it with no resources except for the reference sheet you get, but give yourself no time limit. And then final phase, you want to be doing most of your past papers in phase 4, full exam conditions. Now, one last thing I expect when you're doing past papers is mark it straight away. Straight away. I mean straight away. No more than an hour break I would give myself after I've sat a paper to then mark it. I would immediately try and do it, even if you maybe give yourself 10-minute rest, because your mind's still in the game. You can analyze and you can know what you were thinking. But be objective when you're marking and pay close attention to the marking criteria, because Band 6 students understand where marks come from and how a marker would mark an exam. So, I want to tell you a short story before I give you another resource. Here's me, a very interesting stick figure drawing of me sitting at a table doing a past paper exam. This was in 2013 when I was doing my HSC. 7 weeks out, so 7 weeks before my HSC mathematics exam, I thought I'm going to start doing a past paper every week. So I started with the most recent year, which was the 2012 paper. And I completed it. I think I just passed it, okay, which I was quite concerned about. I just passed it. But I marked it straight away, and what I did is I recorded it in something that looked like this. So I put into my table here 2012. I think I got like 54%. I think it took me 3.5 hours roughly, and I realized there was a lot of topics in here that I needed to work on. So the next week I came around and I thought, okay, what if I go to 2011 now? So I went to 2011. Well, I recorded my result in the table once again. What I got, the time it took me. Once I started getting the hang of it, I started making sure I was only using the 3-hour time frame, okay? And I started noticing, I started getting a little bit quicker. But I kept going through week by week, and I was putting in each year and my result. What I noticed was I was nearly increasing by an average approximately 4% every exam. It was crazy how close it was to 4%. I mean, yeah, some weeks it was 5% or some weeks it was 3% or a decimal, but it was nearly always very close to 4%. So, the week or two leading up to the exam, I started pumping out a few more. Started doing quite a few more, so more than one a week. And the day before my HSC exam, I went back and I redid the 2012 paper. And yes, I'd already done it before, but I'd done that many past papers in between. It wasn't something that I remembered a lot of the answers of anyway. I sat the 2012 paper and I got 81 the day before my HSC. And I thought, yeah, you know what? I'm pretty happy with the mark of 81 in this course. It was a difficult course. I'm not kidding you. My HSC result in this course was 85. 4%. It increased. And I was so happy about that. But part of me often wondered, what would have happened if I had just started 10 weeks out? Or if I had done 2 papers per week? Imagine the mark I could have got. So, moral to the story. Do as many past papers as you can. I will attach this sheet below, record them and your mark in here, and honestly, watch the magic happen. So that wraps up my summary on how to get a band 6 in any maths course. I hope this helps you.